So you want to get better at speaking English, huh? Well, that's awesome. We're doing a deep dive into this script that's like packed with tips.
Okay.
It says it's for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
But I think anyone could find something useful in here.
Yeah. I can.
No matter like how long you've been speaking English. In fact, it reminds me of this one time, well, let's just say I learned the hard way, that good communication can really like make or break a situation.
It's true. Clear communication is so important. I think one of the things that's really interesting about this script is how it starts by addressing the fear factor.
Right.
You know, that feeling of, what if I mess up?
Oh, totally.
Or like, what if I don't have the right words? You know, the script really acknowledges those anxieties.
Yeah.
And reframes them as just part of the process.
Totally.
It's not like a sign that you're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
It's just part of the deal.
It's so true. Instead of just like jumping into grammar rules, it really encourages you to just start with simple phrases that you can use every day. You know, things like, how are you? Or can you help me with this?
Yes, exactly.
Like, that seems almost too easy.
I know. It might seem that way.
Yeah.
But think about it. Like, how do we get good at anything?
Right.
You know, we practice, we repeat, we kind of build those neural pathways. Mm-hmm. By practicing these like simple phrases, you're training your brain to think and react in English more automatically.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's almost like you're laying the foundation for a house.
Yeah.
You know, you need a solid base before you can build those like, you know, fancy upper floors.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to see how those basic phrases aren't so basic after all. Now, this next tip is something I actually do myself.
Oh, really?
Imitating native speakers.
Oh, interesting.
The script suggests like watching movies, listening to podcasts, anything that you enjoy, basically.
Right.
And trying to mimic their pronunciation, the tone, even the rhythm. It's like learning by osmosis, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's all about immersion.
Yeah.
You know, by surrounding yourself with the sounds of like spoken English, you're picking up on those subtle nuances that textbook learning sometimes misses.
Oh, totally.
You start to notice, you know, how native speakers connect words, where they emphasize certain syllables, how their intonation changes depending on the situation. And don't worry about like sounding exactly like someone else. It's more about like absorbing those patterns and incorporating them into your own, you know, unique way of speaking.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of sounding more natural, the script also talks about using idioms.
Okay.
Have you found that mastering those little expressions makes a big difference in how fluent someone sounds?
Oh, absolutely. Idioms are those like colorful figurative expressions that just add a touch of like personality and cultural understanding to your language. You know, think of phrases like break the ice, piece of cake, or hit the nail on the head. They don't always translate literally.
Right, exactly.
But they convey a very specific meaning within a cultural context.
They do. And they're not just about sounding more fluent.
Right.
They also show that you understand the nuances of the language and the culture.
Right, exactly.
You know, if you can just casually drop an idiom into conversation, it shows you're not just speaking the language, but you're engaging with it on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it signals that you're going beyond the textbook.
Right.
You know, embracing the richness of the language. Now, another tip the script highlights is the importance of pronunciation.
Of course.
You know, it might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people neglect this aspect.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in grammar and vocabulary.
I know.
But like clear pronunciation is crucial if you want people to understand you. I mean, we've all had those moments where we've like mumbled or mispronounced something and it just leads to confusion or awkwardness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and this script even suggests using some online tools like Forvo or Youglish to practice and fine-tune your pronunciation. These tools let you hear how native speakers pronounce different words and phrases.
Oh, cool.
You can even record yourself to compare and contrast.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's like having a personal pronunciation coach.
That's awesome. Okay, one more tip before we move on, and it's a classic.
You okay?
Tongue twisters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, who hasn't stumbled over "she sells seashells by the seashore" at least once?
Right, at least once.
Yeah.
Everyone's tried that.
But why do you think the script emphasizes these seemingly silly exercises?
Well, beyond being a fun challenge, tongue twisters are actually incredibly effective for training your mouth muscles.
Interesting.
To produce specific sounds accurately.
Yeah.
By repeating these kind of tricky phrases, you're working on your articulation, which is crucial for clear and understandable speech. Think about it. When you speak clearly, your audience can focus on like what you're saying, your message,
Mm-hmm.
instead of straining to decipher your words. It's a subtle but powerful way to just enhance your overall communication skills.
That's a good point. It's not just about sounding fancy. It's about making sure that your message comes across loud and clear.
Right, exactly.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the tips focused on pronunciation and sounding more natural.
Yeah.
What do you think? Should we move on to some of the other areas the script covers?
Absolutely. Let's dive deeper into those other essential aspects of speaking English with confidence.
Just do it.
One thing that really struck me about this script is how it emphasizes the importance of building your vocabulary.
Yeah.
It suggests aiming to learn 3 to 5 new words each day
Okay.
and then actually using them in sentences.
Right.
What do you think about that approach?
It sounds simple enough, but I can definitely see how it would be really effective. Instead of just memorizing a list of words, you're actually integrating them into your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's you're taking those words out for a spin, getting comfortable with them.
Totally. And the script even provides a simple example I learned the word excited.
Okay.
I feel excited to practice speaking today.
Right.
It might seem basic, but that act of using the word in a sentence helps solidify it in your memory.
Right.
It's like taking a new tool out of the toolbox and learning how to use it.
I like that. And speaking of tools,
Yeah.
the script also mentions flashcards as a classic but effective method for vocabulary expansion. You write the word on one side, the definition or an example sentence on the other.
Oh, yeah. Classic flashcard.
It's a technique that's been around forever, but it just seems to stand the test of time. Why do you think that is?
Well, flashcards tap into some powerful learning principles,
Okay.
like spaced repetition and active recall. You're essentially forcing your brain to retrieve the information from memory, which strengthens those neural connections.
Okay.
And by spacing out your review sessions, you're ensuring that the information gets transferred to your long-term memory.
It's like giving your brain a little workout.
It is.
Right. The more you challenge yourself to recall those words and definitions, the stronger those memories become.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, beyond individual words, this script also talks about learning common phrases and idioms.
Right.
What's the advantage of focusing on phrases rather than just memorizing isolated words?
It's about shifting from a word-based approach to a more phrase-based approach.
Yeah.
When you master those common phrases, you're essentially equipping yourself with pre-packaged units of meaning that can be readily deployed in various situations.
Yeah.
It just makes your speech more fluent and natural.
Right.
Because you're not having to mentally translate each individual word in real time.
It's like learning to dance. You start with basic steps, and then eventually you're able to string those steps together into more complex sequences and movements.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Speaking of fluency, one tip that caught my eye is the idea of thinking in English.
Oh, yeah.
The script suggests that instead of translating from your native language, you should try to form your thoughts directly in English.
Right?
Do you think that's really possible, especially for someone who's just starting out?
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
It might not happen overnight,
Right.
but with consistent practice and immersion, it becomes increasingly natural. You'll find yourself thinking in English more and more, especially in situations where you're using the language frequently.
Right.
It's like you're training your brain to kind of... It is.
Now, of course, all the vocabulary and mental practice in the world won't do much good if you're not actually speaking out loud. And that's where the script's emphasis on practice really comes in.
Yes.
It suggests finding a language partner or tutor to have regular conversations with. What are your thoughts on the importance of finding a speaking buddy?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, you can learn all the grammar rules and vocabulary in the world, but speaking is a skill that requires active practice. Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just read about music theory. You'd actually pick up the instrument and play it. Having a dedicated partner or tutor provides you with a safe and supportive environment to experiment, make mistakes, and refine your spoken English. It's like having a training partner at the gym.
Oh, yeah.
They push you to improve and help you stay motivated.
And speaking of staying motivated, the script also recommends joining English clubs or groups, either online or in person.
Yeah, great idea.
Why do you think that social aspect is so important for language learning?
Well, it's about more than just practicing your spoken English.
Yeah.
It's about immersing yourself in a community of like-minded individuals who share your goals. It fosters a sense of belonging and motivation, and it makes the learning journey more enjoyable. Think of it as expanding your social circle while also expanding your linguistic skills.
It's like killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
You're practicing your English and making new connections at the same time.
Absolutely.
All right, I think we've covered a good chunk of the proactive steps you can take to improve your speaking skills.
Yeah, I think so too.
But this script also dives into something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Common mistakes and how to fix them. What do you think? Should we take a look at some of those pitfalls and how to avoid them?
Absolutely. Let's shed some light on those common stumbling blocks.
Okay.
And empower you to navigate them with confidence. We've talked about all these great tips and techniques.
Right.
But I think we could all agree that one of the biggest hurdles to speaking any language, especially a new one, is the fear of messing up.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever felt that way, like you're so worried about making a mistake that you just freeze up?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
All the time. It's like my brain just shuts down.
It's a completely natural human response.
Yeah.
We don't want to sound foolish or be judged.
Right.
So we hesitate, we overthink.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just avoid speaking altogether.
Right.
But here's the thing. This script really emphasizes mistakes are inevitable.
Yeah.
They're not a sign of failure.
Right.
They're actually proof that you're learning and pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone.
So true. It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
But how does this script suggest we deal with that fear, practically speaking?
Well, it encourages you to reframe your perspective.
Okay.
Instead of seeing mistakes as something to be ashamed of, try to view them as valuable feedback.
Okay, yeah.
Each time you make a mistake, you're learning something new about the language. You're identifying areas where you need more practice, and you're becoming more aware of those subtle nuances that make a difference.
So it's not about striving for perfection, but about embracing the learning process, bumps and all.
Exactly.
Another common mistake the script highlights is this tendency to overcomplicate sentences. I know I've been guilty of this myself, especially when I'm trying to impress someone or sound more academic. Why do you think we do that, and how can we avoid falling to that trap?
I think it stems from this misconception that complexity equals intelligence or fluency.
Right.
We might feel like we need to use big words and intricate grammar to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
But in reality, simplicity is often the key to clear and effective communication.
That's so true.
Think about some of the most powerful speeches or like memorable quotes.
Right.
They're often quite simple and straightforward in their language.
It's like that quote, I think it's Mark Twain who said it, I didn't have time to write a short letter, so I wrote a long one instead.
Exactly, yeah.
It actually takes more effort to distill your thoughts down to their essence.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how does the script suggest we simplify our sentences without sounding, well, too simple?
Well, it encourages you to focus on conveying your message in the most direct and understandable way possible.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to use shorter sentences,
Right.
everyday vocabulary, and a conversational tone. Think about how you would explain something to a friend or family member. You wouldn't use overly formal language or complicated structures.
Right. It's about being authentic and relatable.
Exactly.
Speaking of relatable, this script also dives into a common challenge that many English learners face: limited vocabulary. We've already talked about flashcards and learning new words every day, but what are some other strategies the script suggests for expanding our word bank?
It encourages you to become an active reader.
Okay.
Whether it's books, magazines, online articles, or even social media posts. The more you expose yourself to written English, the more new words and phrases you'll encounter.
Yeah.
And don't just passively read. Actively engage with the text. Underline unfamiliar words. Look up their definitions, and try to use them in your own writing or conversations. It's like turning your reading material into a personalized vocabulary builder.
Like a treasure hunt for new words.
Yeah.
Now, beyond reading, this script also emphasizes the importance of actively listening to English being spoken, whether it's podcasts like this, movies, TV shows, or even conversations with native speakers. Just paying attention to how others use language can be incredibly insightful. Why do you think listening is such a crucial part of language learning?
Well, it's about more than just understanding the words being spoken.
Okay, yeah.
It's about absorbing the rhythm, the intonation,
Right.
the subtle ways that native speakers connect words and phrases. It's like training your ear to recognize the music of the language. And the more you listen, the more natural those patterns will start to sound, and the easier it will be to incorporate them into your own speaking.
So it's like immersing yourself in the soundscape of the language, even when you're not actively speaking.
Exactly, yeah.
Speaking of active speaking, this script doesn't just leave you with tips and techniques. It actually provides a practice exercise to help you put it all together. Can you walk us through what that exercise entails?
Absolutely. It's a 3-step exercise designed to help you practice some fundamental conversation skills.
Okay.
The first step is introducing yourself.
Right.
Your name, where you're from, maybe a hobby or two.
Okay.
It's a simple way to warm up your speaking muscles and get comfortable talking about yourself.
It's like that classic icebreaker activity you do at the beginning of like a workshop or a meeting.
Exactly.
It helps you ease into the flow of conversation.
Exactly.
So what's step 2?
Step 2 is describing your day.
Okay.
What you did, what you ate, any interesting events that happened. It's a great way to practice using different tenses,
Right.
vocabulary related to daily activities, and even like descriptive language. You can make it as simple or as detailed as you like, depending on your comfort level.
Yeah. It's like turning your everyday life into a conversation topic. And finally, the 3rd step.
The 3rd step is all about practicing asking and answering questions.
Okay.
You could use simple questions like, what's your favorite color?
Right.
Or what do you like to do in your free time? Or you can get more creative and ask open-ended questions that spark more in-depth conversations. The key is to practice formulating questions clearly and responding in a way that keeps the conversation flowing.
It's like a mini conversation simulator. And the best part is you can adapt this exercise to fit your own interests and goals. If you're interested in travel, you can practice talking about your dream vacation. If you're learning English for business, you could practice, asking work-related questions. The possibilities are really endless.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your learning journey and making it relevant to your own life. And don't forget, this exercise is just a starting point. You can repeat it as many times as you like, focusing on different areas each time. And remember, the more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become.
So there you have it. A deep dive into this script packed with tips, techniques, and even a practice exercise to help you on your journey to speaking English with confidence. We've covered a lot of ground today, but if we had to distill it down to a few key takeaways, what would you say are the most important things to remember?
I would say, embrace those mistakes, keep things simple, expand your vocabulary through reading and listening,
Yes.
find a speaking buddy, and most importantly, practice, practice, practice. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Love that.
And every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal.
I love that. And speaking of taking steps, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to think about. Think about all the reasons you're learning English. Maybe you want to connect with people from different cultures. Maybe you want to advance your career. Or maybe you just want to experience the world in a new way. How do you think improving your English speaking skills will help you achieve those bigger dreams and aspirations? That's something I want you to ponder as you continue on your language learning journey. Until next time, happy speaking.